Hi, this is Terry Evans. Thank you for tuning in to Reluctantly, a podcast. Initially, after the launch, the triple threat launch with Mike Plume, David Gogo, and Clayton Bellamy, I had not anticipated a release of another episode until November 5th. And that's all coming. November 5th, there will be another brand new episode coming up of Reluctantly, a podcast. Meanwhile, an article that I read, and quite honestly, I think it was just clickbait myself. There's so much of that on the internet these days, but there was an alleged spat between Angus Young and Yngwie Malmsteen during the Fly on the Wall tour in 85 and 86. Well, recently, Simon Wright, who was the drummer for ACDC in the mid-80s, 83 to 89, somewhere in there, he recently came out, not that way, became vocal, vociferous, if you will, about the alleged regret over Yngwie Malmsteen. And it turns out there was none. At the end of the story, it did say that, kind of recapping the fact that ACDC was out in the summer of 2024 and they were, doing their 50th anniversary tour and finished up August 17th in Dublin, Ireland. Now, there was a lot of talk that AC/DC was going to return to the stage and perhaps tour again in the summer of 2025. That, as of right now, is unconfirmed. And if you go to the AC/DC website and click on tour, it says no tour dates right now. And I'm speaking to you in the last week of October of 2024. But what that did make me think of, all of this clickbait and alleged regret that Angus had about Yngwie Malmsteen. There's a lot of mutual respect. Yngwie Malmsteen, he lived almost next door to Brian Johnson at one point. But what it did make me think of is 4 years ago, we were at about this time, we were just coming up to the release of a new album from AC/DC called Power Up, and I had the opportunity to chat with Brian Johnson.
Reluctantly.
Brian, congratulations on the record, Power Up, November 13th. I listened to it again this morning. It's a fantastic record.
Oh, that's a lovely... Thank you so much, my son. Makes the heart feel good there.
Like, I listen to it and I smile. And I've been an AC/DC fan for a long, long time. And I couldn't help but just go through the track listing from start to finish this morning. And it just made me smile because it's AC/DC, it's familiar, it's the thing that we've come to know and love. And how comfortable is it for you to be doing it after 40 years with the band?
It was a bittersweet thing, Terry. We'd lost Malcolm. And we got into the studio in Vancouver, as usual, and, Malcolm wasn't with us anymore. And we knew then and there that this album had to be a tribute to Malcolm, the man who started this band, the man whose idea it was for this sound of the AC/DCs. And we knew we wanted to make it special. And thank you for saying what you did, because it felt like that in the studio. The minute the boys all got together again after 4 years of heartache, sadness, tragedy, whatever. And there we were, the nearest thing to the band without Malcolm being there, and Stevie standing in, and there was something in there. And honestly, we're not spiritualists. Forget about that nonsense. But to a man, we felt something special in that room. And as Angus said, who was very close to Mal, obviously, his brother, when they wrote all these songs, they were just ideas. They were just songs that they'd written over the years and, never had quite finished. And so when we went in there, we knew that we had to make it special for Malcolm, make him proud of us, because he was our leader. As well as everything else, And I'm so happy it's managed to come through a record, rather than a documentary or anything. You can actually hear it, the joy. Brendan O'Brien, the producer, And good old Mike Fraser, who does all our albums, good Canadian boy, they just knew this was had to be something special. And it was just felt like that. Every track we did, we started with Realize. And as Angus was saying, we always have to set the bar for the rest of the album, Terry. Do you know what I mean? So the first track had to punch you, make sure that you knew who you were listening to without reading the sleeve.
I have the unique opportunity with this interview to see your face, and I see when you are describing some of the things that you've gone through with the creation of this record, you're closing your eyes for maybe a longer period of time than maybe you might normally be. Is it you can still picture him there? You can still picture the scenarios where you might have been in the studio at a time, and you can always look to a familiar spot and see him?
Yes, well spotted. It's just I do that because they were just magic moments. And sometimes, and I just think back and I can smell the room, I can smell the energy that was in there. I mean, you could cut it. It was just so wonderful. Everybody was up for it. Like, in particular, when we did the song, The Mists of Time, I still get goosebumps when I hear that song, by the way. And this is more for Malcolm than anybody else. It's the fun times we had with Malcolm in the early 80s, in the late 70s when Bon was there, and Malcolm was the driving force with Angus. Let's not forget, Angus was right there with him, but, Malcolm was the one he always deferred to, listen, what do you think, Malcolm? He was the wise man of the band and all sort of greatest guitar player. And when I sang the song, which was brilliantly written by Angus, the lyrics can only be written by someone's brother. That means so much, and and the painted ladies looking so divine. They were the lovely girls we met backstage. They were just, the times were fun. There was no AIDS. There was nothing bad around then. There was no bloody iPhones so somebody could stick it under, intrude in your space. They were just happy times, and I think it encapsulated that song. And I remember when Brendan O'Brien said to me, he's gone, right, it's done. It's done. We got that. And I said, Brendan, please, can I sing it one more time? And he said, well, why? It's done. I said, just let me sing it one more time. And it just, the feeling I got, and it was more selfishness. I just wanted to sing it again because I knew it would be forever before I heard it or sang it again. And it was just a shout to a friend I'd lost.
More of my 2020 conversation with Brian Johnson of ACDC coming up after this break.
Reluctantly.
A lot of people might think that you guys put this together during the pandemic, but it was actually recorded back in 2018, not even long after Malcolm had passed. And then, putting the finishing touches on it and everything that goes through the process of it. And especially knowing the history with you, because you were in the same hospital as Malcolm, but were unable to see it. How difficult was that for you leading up to his passing?
It was dreadful, because after that, everything happened to me. My ears were going down and down through the shores in Australia, and I just knew the inevitable was coming, and I tried to pretend it wasn't. I'm me, I'm tough, nothing's going to stop me. I started believing, my own publicity, that, I'm strong as an ox, nothing's going to stop us. And of course, as you get older, you can't screw around with stuff. And but being, and then I had to stop. And then my very best friend in the world died of cancer at 59 in the same week. And then just before that, knowing how frail we all are, when there was me buddy just over this wall in this hospital. And the guy said, I'm very, very sorry, but he's just, he's very, very ill. Gosh, I can't even describe how bad that was. The guy you've been 40 years with, and you can't even wave or talk to him. It's just the bloody worst feeling, Terry. I can't tell you. How does this,
you talk about your close friend who passed of cancer, and then of course Malcolm, and we're hearing of, other people, Eddie Van Halen and Little Richard and Neil Peart. And how does that make you deal with your own mortality?
Well, 3-4 weeks ago I turned 73, and thanks be to God, that can't be. What do you mean 73? I haven't done enough yet. I haven't started yet, you know what I mean? I've got things to do, you know, and it's just crazy, you know, and I'm happy I've got that outlook on life, you know. If you get to this age, you start noticing people popping, you know, just here, there, and then, but, you know, my dad used to say something. He used to say, son, you just play the cards you're dealt. And that's it.
More of my 2020 conversation with Brian Johnson of ACDC coming up after this break. This podcast, reluctantly, brought to you by Just for Feet. Just for Feet. Just around the corner from the Sally Ann. No pants, no hats, no jackets. None of that stuff's for feet. Just for Feet. Don't come to us looking for gloves.
Reluctantly.
40 years ago, you stepped into ACDC and helped create one of the best-selling albums in history. And 40 years later, you guys are about to release Power Up. Have you, and I'm just kind of throwing this out there, have you listened to Back in Black and Power Up side by side to hear your voice and the way it's compared?
No, I haven't, Terry. No, I haven't. What a good idea. I never thought of that. I just know that when I do listen to Back in Black, which I do, you know, frequently, because I have to keep pinching myself, you know, like your good self, people like your good self, obviously, you know, it's been, and sometimes it rocks you. You're just sitting on, hang on a minute, that long? We did that, you know, and it takes some believing. I mean, it really does. People with, you know, so and you know, we've been through everything, you know. We've been quoted as being devil worshippers. We've had everything chucked at the book chucked at, but, you know, because rock was always it's dead, by the way. Rock and roll's dead, and it was never the mainstream genre. It was always the dangerous music you listened to. It was always, you know, if you were a rock and roll fan, you were part of a set or a gang. You weren't normal, you know, not really, you know. It's just now as people are becoming middle-aged when they come up to me in suits and they're lawyers and surgeons and they go, man, you got me through college. You know?
Brian, how important is it to present this record to people in a stadium or a Coliseum atmosphere?
I think it's a must. We really want to, you know, Terry, we were in Holland and we rehearsed in secret 3 weeks with the new ear technology that I've got. Thank the Lord for that. And it worked so well. And I think I was about the happiest man in the world on that day when we tried it and it worked. And we all got together after the 3 weeks and looked at each other and said, hey, listen, this is working. Why don't we plan some shows? You know, not a tour. Let's not jump straight in the deep end. Let's just plan some shows. Baby steps. Let's get on there, you know, get the whole thing. We're just kind of it's the fans you miss. Mm-hmm. You know, that wonderful fan base of ours, which is just so special to us. You know, that honestly, I know there's fans for all bands in the world, and I'm terribly biased when I think ours are the best. I mean, they have to be. They've been with for so long. I mean, they should get a medal for stamina. Yeah. You know, the ACDC music, it has no sides to it, Terry. You know, there's no hidden agenda. There's no music. You haven't got to join anything. Just enjoy it. Forget about the world just for an hour and a bit and sit and listen to it and then put it back on again.
With a smile on your face. Brian, I can't tell you what a pleasure it's been to speak with you. A continued success, long life, and happiness, and to you and your family.
Likewise to you there, young Terry. Thank you very much indeed. Thanks, mate.
Reluctantly.
Today's podcast brought to you by the Clayton Bellamy Foundation for the Arts, supporting education and community-based programs in the province of Alberta by providing financial support to arts programs in need. ClaytonBellamyFoundation.org.
Reluctantly.